and is Lieutenant Toney Lewis, right?
Yeah, we're good friends. We grew up, not in the same neighborhood, but in this area,
April 15th, 1989, a 45-count indictment. 28 people in all were rounded up, including his mother, aunt, 2 sisters, a brother-in-law, and his best friend from childhood, Toney Lewis.
Toney Lewis Sr. would be coaxed into leaving an already lucrative marijuana operation he masterminded himself into a partnership that Rayful would later abuse and betray. In 1994, Edmonds became an informant providing information to the feds for over 20 years, resulting in the convictions of over 100 people. Federal prosecutors say he jailed dozens of drug dealers and broken up distribution rings. Despite betraying Toney Lewis Sr.'s trust and cooperating and introducing new evidence on Lewis as factual on the witness stand in a court of law that could have resulted in maybe new charges or possibly be the reason Lewis spent 34 years trying to get his freedom back. But after all that, Rayful still found a way to further abuse their friendship, this time at the expense of Toney Lewis Jr.
Rayful Edmonds, despite his incarceration, was continuing to deal cocaine using inmate telephones, visitation privileges, and mail privileges.
Specifically, how did you do it?
Specifically, we used the visiting room, the telephones.
Specifically, these telephones, conveniently located just down the hall from his cell. Edmund would contact Chickie simply by placing a collect call to a friend in Washington. Every one of those calls was recorded.
Hello, this is the AT&T operator with a collect call. Who's calling, please?
Right.
Your son would call him on the phone, and essentially he would ask your son to put the phone down for like 5-10 minutes, and then there would be three-way calls.
Yeah, he would call my son. Not my son calling him. He would call my son for prison.
Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, he would call your son,
right, and get him to make 3-way calls and stuff for him.
The friend, in turn, connected him to Chickie all the way down in Medellin.
What reason would I be calling out the country? I'm not from Colombia or South America.
Here's an inmate that's calling Medellin 3 and 4 times a week.
So I'm up to something. Just common sense will tell you. If you got good common sense, it will tell you that I'm up to no good.
In one afternoon, he made 59 phone calls to 5 states and 2 foreign countries.
But I knew that my son would talk to Rayful from time to time, because sometimes he would call my son and say, tell your father such and such. When your father called, he would send messages through my son like that. Now, talking about other things and stuff like that, I didn't know exactly what my son was talking to him about. I thought he would call and say, hey, little Toney, what's going on? How you doing? And then as time went on, I started to find out, he was calling my son, and so I talked to my son, what is y'all talking about on his phone? So what Rayful, he was calling my son and making some 3-way calls. But
I thought that we listened in on their phone conversations. I thought that when a guy makes a phone call, that the prison kind of knows what he's talking about.
All the phone conversations, all the social phone conversations are recorded, but not all of them are monitored.
Now, does that make any sense?
Well, it doesn't make any sense except for the fact that they don't have the ability to. There's simply not enough people to listen in on all of the phone conversations that all of these prisoners have.
And the prisoners know that.
A lot of times what I knew, he would have him call another girl for him or call whoever he may call, but if he was doing something nefarious, my son didn't know what he was doing, My son was younger guy, but and then I know Rayful, he gonna talk in a certain way with my son on.
They spoke in code.
Remember, he used to live in 18th Street. Yeah. But he was gonna move to downtown to 16th Street.
Yeah. When he made that statement to me, he was letting me know that the price went down 3,000. It went from 19th Street to 16th Street. So I automatically knew what he was talking about.
Edmund used an entirely different code when he spoke to his distributors back in Washington, D.C. Believe it or not, he used Pig Latin.
You want to hear a little bit?
Yeah, I want to hear what you'd say. What did you say?
Oh, I was just saying, I feel good today.
So fast. You could do that.
You got to be fast so nobody will understand what she's talking about.
Yeah, and you could just do this whole interview like that?
Yeah, I could do the whole interview like that.
He was calling Colombia by making 3-way calls, by calling an associate outside of the prison who would then make a 3-way call to Colombia.
All right, peace. You already know where you at and who you rocking with, right? Yeah, so let's get into that then, man. Let me start this episode by saying salute to Toney Lewis Sr. and salute to Toney Lewis Jr., man. That father-son relationship is inspirational, and I salute them for fighting to get his freedom back like that. You know what I'm saying? I salute his son for not giving up. I salute his father for not giving up. And it's just a beautiful thing to see them sit together. You know what I'm saying? And speak about the time lost and the time that they sharing right now. Now, to the subject at hand, Rayful Edmonds is one of the biggest snakes DC has ever seen. And it took for me to watch the Toney Lewis Sr. Vlad TV interview, along with a couple others though, but really the Vlad TV interview for me to see how big a snake Rayful was, man. He's worse than Alpo. Everybody want to say what they want to say about Alpo coming to town and getting 3 people put in prison. 3 people. Alpo cooperated. Yeah. He a rat. He ratted. He told. He got 3 people locked up. Rayful got over 100 men and women convictions in the federal penitentiary. He broke up distribution rings. He taught the prison system how to counter drugs coming in and out of them. Come on, man. He's way worse. He manipulated a child, a teenager maybe, in Toney Lewis Jr. at his own expense. He didn't care about what would happen to Toney Lewis Jr. You feel me? And Toney Lewis Sr. knows that. If you watch the Vlad interview, if you watch the little video array that I just put in front of your face, you'll see that he said that my son was calling him and he was making 3-way calls. Now, the feds say Rayful was calling people and placing 3-way calls to make drug deals. 1 and 1 make 2 all the time, right? So it would stand to reason that Rayful was using Toney Lewis Jr. at his own expense. He could have caught that boy up in a conspiracy. He could have jeopardized his future. You feel me? I know he's doing great things. I don't know. He's like a congressman or something. He's very, very astute and important in DC culture. He runs the nonprofit organization DC or Nothing. He helps returning citizens get their life back, get back in the groove of being back in the real world. I mean, he's a very, very smart and productive young man. And Rayful compromised all of that. And that's fucked up. And Toney Lewis Sr. knows that. Excuse my language. Toney Lewis Sr. knows that. And you can see it by his body language. He knew that Rayful was doing illegal activities on that phone, so he tried to cover his son's tracks in the Vlad interview by saying if Rayful was doing nefarious activities, my son wasn't aware of it. In fact, he would have him put the phone down or even speak in code. Now, you saw in the photo, in the clip array again, that they said he did what? He spoke in code. He spoke pig Latin. Him and Chicky spoke in code when they spoke from Medellin to the penitentiary or whatnot. That man has no scruples. You feel me? That is a shameful act to use a child. Unknowingly. Unbeknownst to him, you using a child in order to conduct illegal activities, and then that's your partner's son. Your partner, man, your best friend, quote unquote, is the way I've heard it said by the news and by little documentary outlets that Toney Lewis was his best friend, childhood friend. What kind of moral compass you got to do something like that, dog? I guarantee you, Toney Lewis Sr. don't wrap his arm around that dude. And I guarantee you, he keep his son away from him as well. Am I mad at Rayful? No. But everything is see-through when you're looking at plastic. You know what I'm saying? And that shit is plain for everyone to see. He's a user, dog. He used Toney Lewis Sr. in order to get to a certain point, and then when he didn't need him no more, he folded on him. He went to telling on him or whatnot in the court of law, on the stand, introducing new evidence. You feel me? The young man calling because they got an established relationship. He think that's his uncle. You done been in his life for over 10 years or so, 7 years or so. You like an uncle to him. So he's up. Toney Lewis Sr. expressed that Toney Lewis Jr. didn't know how to go about the relationship with Rayful because he didn't understand what was going on. He was that naive to the situation. And that is what Rayful played on. And that's not cool, man. That's not cool. Let me see. Let me look at the notes and make sure I ain't missing nothing, man. The one thing I will say about their case, though, is he said, 89 was they downfall. He said they were arrested, tried, and convicted in 89. That's outrageous, man. Expedient. Like he said, they was trying to make an example out of him. They didn't come with any deals. No plea deals, no none of that. They wanted to get him the straight time that they got. And that was wrong, man. Another thing that I want to touch on was that I was unaware of was the ratio he was talking about. He said that Joe Biden was the architect of the mandatory minimums. He said for every 1 gram of cocaine, they charged him times 100. And they got keys. That's what got the life sentence. But then he said that Trump came in and repealed that and put in the First Step Act that brought the ratio down from 1 to 100 to 1 to 18. And that he was resentenced under that law. And that's what was able to get him a foot out of the door of the penitentiary, man. Salute to Trump, man. Make America great again, dog. A lot of people don't give that man the respect that he deserves or whatnot because they don't like the rhetoric. But you know, I like the devil I know. I'd rather deal with somebody that's going to tell me like it is than somebody that's going to give me metaphors. You feel me? Salute to Toney Lewis Sr. Salute to Toney Lewis Jr. You know what I'm saying? Rayful, you ain't right for that, dog. And I hope you see this. Straight up and down, man. One more thing, though. The Quantico Marine base they kept them at is outrageous. That's like saying they was savages. You feel me? Like they couldn't even keep them in a regular prison. They had to take them to Quantico and fly them in to the trial every day. Man, that's a high profile case, man. That's crazy, dog. Salute to Toney Lewis Sr. and Jr. Peace to the gods and earths. Until we meet again.
Back better than ever. I'm back better than ever.